If you want to be able to get some great genetics, you need to know some things. And after 16 plus years of growing hundreds of different genetics I've grown, there's a few things that I feel like will help you find some of these great genetics. So I've got 7 tips that have given me great results over the years to find and maintain great genetics. Stay tuned.
Like we always do about this time.
This video is for educational purposes only, YouTube. So if you're new here, my name is Rob and this is CLtv and we talk all things herb. Today in particular, we're going to be talking about genetics. So I've been talking a lot about genetics this year, and it's because I've been doing a lot of pheno hunting. Been really looking for something that's a keeper that I'd like to kind of do a project with, and I did find a couple. We'll see how it goes. I'll update you in the future on that. But the main thing is, as I'm setting up this new AC Infinity propagation tent, big shout out to them for that, discount code CLtv, by the way. They got me thinking about a question that I got a few weeks back during an episode of From the Stash. Well, this person asked how I'm able to find such good genetics consistently, and it's just experience. I've been doing this for 16 plus years, and I've found some things that work. Now, it seems like everyone's always looking for the greener grass or purpler grass nowadays. They always think the grass is greener on the other side. Nobody's really content with what they're growing, and I can't say nobody, but a lot of people aren't content with what they're growing, and they're seeking a better strain, a better cultivar, and I feel like sometimes that's not necessarily the way to go. But if you're gonna go that route and you feel like what you have right now is inadequate, here's some tips for you. Now, if you stick around to the end of the video, I have an additional bonus tip that I'm gonna throw in there that may be one that's interesting for you. Now, do you have any tips for growers who are looking for some great genetics? Drop them below in the comment section. Number 1, understanding the cannabinoid potential. Now, this is not just the THC or CBD like so many people seem to be focused on. This is terpenes and flavonoids. Now, a lot of times you're not going to have all this listed, but in most cases you will at least have the terpenes or relatively well-known aromas and flavors listed. Anyways, when you're thinking about terpenes, you want to think about what's going to be best for you. And a lot of times there are going to be some that are known to have medical properties or different medicinal benefits. Now, for example, myrcene's one. This is one of the most common terpenes, and it's definitely known to have more of that sedative, relaxing type of property, definitely helping people sleep. Now, again, this is alleged. I'm not a medical professional. This is just what studies have shown. Myrcene is also thought to enhance the absorption of cannabinoids through the blood-brain barrier, potentially increasing the efficacy of the plant's use. Now, it's really subjective and it's going to be different depending on your endocannabinoid system, but for me, it's always been very, very crucial to find something that hits the right terpenes. Otherwise, I don't care how much it yields, I don't care how much THC it has, it's just not going to be smoke that I want. I've got a closet full of stuff I haven't liked for years, so trust me, this is for the connoisseurs, it's not for everybody. Make sure you're looking at terpenes. It's so important. The next thing I'd recommend is to research and select some unique cultivars. Now, you can dive deep into different banks. Now, our preferred bank is Seedsman. Big shout out to them. CLtv is the discount code you can use on any of the products they have there. But of course, there's also plenty of others out there. There's individual breeders, clones, there's cuts, there's a ton of different varieties, but you really want to make sure you're looking into some of these cultivars. You're finding potentially limited edition drops, and make sure it's something that you would actually want to grow, not just something that's hyped. You're going to want to explore different filial generations as well. This is something I had no idea about until I really started getting into the breeding world and realized that I was just jumping in deep. I was getting genetics that had too many variations, and the genotypes were just not ideal for my situation. I'll touch on genotypes and phenotypes in a little bit, but if you're just watching and you feel like you need to comment right now, go ahead and explain it to the Gromies below. Appreciate you. So F1s, F2s, F3s, these are filial generations. For example, F1 stands for the first filial generation, and it refers to the first generation of offspring resulting from a cross between 2 parent plants. F1 hybrids usually are uniform and express the dominant traits of both parents. Now, of course, this isn't always. I know you're already going hard in the comment section. Settle down. Oftentimes this is the case. F2s, on the other hand, so this is often produced when you're cross-pollinating 2 F1 plants or allowing them to self-pollinate. This generation can often reveal more genetic variation due to the recombination of the parent's genes. Now, F3s, F4s, and F5s, as you continue on, will have different traits. Breeding out for more stability will often happen in F3s, and you can get further deeper in the line. But this isn't an episode about that. The main thing is you want to get familiar with some of this stuff, so that way you're not totally in the dark when you're getting genetics. Now, this is where it leads you into pheno hunting. So, what is pheno hunting? Now, when it comes to pheno hunting, this is where I often say you want to pop more beans than you even need. You want to find a single cultivar that is going to pop and do the things that you want. Now, each cultivar has its own genotype. A genotype is a little different from a phenotype. A genotype sets the potential for certain traits. Environmental factors such as light, temperature, nutrients, and water can influence the expressive traits, resulting in the phenotype. Even plants with the same genotype can show different phenotypes depending on the environment and depending on what it goes through. You're always going to want to look for plants that show the best growth characteristics, resistance to pests or other issues, and also give you some of the best properties we've talked about, like good terpenes, potency, and overall effect. That's what we're looking for, right?
Turp all that,
Or is it just bag appeal now? I don't know anymore. Nowadays, I have no idea. The issue when it comes to pheno hunting is when you're limited on space or when you're limited on plant count, and that's when you kind of need to go for something that's already been shown to have more stability. This is when you're going to look at those different filial generations, and I really feel that that's where knowing those two things will help you be able to select good genetics, because not everything is going to just be what the description says. Some things have a lot of different characteristics in them, and I feel like when it comes to a lot of new cultivars, most breeders leave that out. Now, after you've figured out that phenotype, you get to the point now where you need to have genetic preservation. Now, why is this important? Well, in my experience, of all the years I've been growing, I swear I've let some cultivars go that if I would have cloned and ran more, they would have been better. The last time that I grew it, it was the best time that I grew it. And it was only after I decided I didn't want it anymore. And I feel like that was the stupidity, or at the time really the ignorance. Because even after I realized that it was not the move and that I should have been keeping these genetics around, I still somehow, some way, only cloned the ones that I thought were fire right out of the rip. This could be done through cloning, this could be done through tissue culture, and you don't necessarily have to have a mother plant. Now, it would be ideal if you did, but most of us don't really have the space to do that, so we got to keep cloning a clone and cloning a clone, and most people will say that genetic drift doesn't exist, and I'm gonna be one of those people too. Fuck it. Now, when it boils down to it, keeping a clone around will definitely help, and growing it out a couple times can help you as well, but don't waste your time on something that's not going to produce or not going to give you the quality that you're looking for, or is too finicky when you've got plenty of other genetics to work with. And that's why it's important to not always just put all your eggs in one basket too. When it comes to genetic preservation, you can always cull the herd. You can kill something off if you need to, but at the same time, if you don't preserve the genetic, you're not going to even have the opportunity to make that choice. So that's why I highly recommend, if you find the phenotype that you like, even if you find one that's in the ballpark, you at least clone it and rock it one more time in the grow and see how it does in your space, because it could surprise you. I know it has for me in the past. My next one would be to participate in grow communities. Now, of course, you've got our Discord, CLTV's Discord. I believe it's below in the comment section. You've got From the Stash, you've got Pigeons 420, you've got AC Infinity that actually just recently dropped a Discord server as well. But you've also got plenty of websites. Dude Grows has had a great website for a long time. Mr. Grow It. Hell, Northern Scrogger's even got a dope Facebook group if you're still into Facebook. Main point is if you're not a part of a community, it's kind of hard to have your ear to the streets and to know what's hot and what's not. To know where to find authentic genetics and to know where to avoid. Because I really feel like people will oftentimes, they'll champion stuff they love, but they will scream about things that they hate and they'll put it everywhere on the internet. So it's best to pay attention to some of these places, but also pay attention to the source too. You don't always want to just immediately take someone's word who may be a total rookie in the game or at human error, but doing the due diligence of paying attention to these communities, these forums, these areas that basically represent a large voice of this community, I think can really help you find some of these good genetics and avoid, again, bad ones. Next tip I would have is, believe it or not, experiment with autoflowers and feminized genetics. There's been quite a few that I have slept on because I didn't want to grow an auto or I didn't want to grow a fem. And it turns out they were absolutely fire, man. There's definitely more and more that are coming out nowadays. One, for example, that I didn't realize how dank it was Kerosene Crash. That was one from Dutch Passion that really was some fire. Mephisto had 3 Bears OG. These are ones I consumed the flower and I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just some fire. Until a buddy of mine said, yeah, dude, this was an auto. And I was like, what? This was a fallacy that I had that thought that autos just weren't as good, and that totally was ignorant. Same with feminized, that oftentimes you get feminized genetics, they're not going to perform as well, they won't be as potent.
That sounds like bullshit to me.
It's not real. It's not real. Now, of course, there's cases where you're going to have some weaker genetics, and that's just as bad breeding practices, but in most situations, you're going to be able to find some damn good genetics, whether there be regular genetics, autos, feminized, hell, even triploids nowadays. So I think exploring some of these options definitely could be helpful for you, especially if you're in a space where you need more predictable growing and you don't have the availability to have more plant count or space to grow. Having feminized genetics definitely helps in that case, or again, having a triploid so you don't have to worry about herming. These are things that could make or break a grow, and I think it's really cool that we're at the point where we can do that, where we can focus on getting the results, and that breeders now are able to find some of the best genetics and are able to bring them in a variety of forms. Again, autos, feminized, triploids, regulars, pick your bean, totally your choice. And that's the beauty of it. And my last tip, this one may be a little bit more out of the realm for some, but this would be back crossing these genetics. Stability, if you were to take these same genetics,
by some miracle, those two babies met and fucked.
You could potentially help stabilize the traits that you like the most. Now, this involves crossing a plant with one of its own parents or a genetically similar individual to reinforce specific characteristics. Now, this is going to help you maintain the quality of this genetic. This whole genetic drift argument that people will have, it's gone with this. You'll be able to maintain a nice stock, and you'll also be able to maintain all those great characteristics that you really desire. Now, when it boils down to it, this isn't for everybody, and that's why this is the bonus one. This is if you're in more breeding projects. But it's something that's not too difficult, and I really do feel like more people should give it a shot. Now, if you've had some great genetics over the years, what are some tips that you could share? And not if you've just been growing for a little bit and you've had 1 or 2 good harvests. I'm talking if you've had some experience. Finally done. I did it. If you want to be able to get yourself one of these as well, go to watchcltv.com/clonetent and use discount code CLtv at checkout. Big shout out to AC Infinity, and as always, stay lifted. Growers who are looking for that secret sauce usually are just missing something from their garden. And to help with that, we bring you the Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Stash Blend brings beneficial bacteria, silicon, seaweed, humic acid, and has enough macronutrition to help lower the dosages of your base feed too. Unleash your plant's true potential with Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Available at Growers House.